Heavy Gear 4th Edition, by DreamPod 9, is the 4th edition of RPG book set in the world of Heavy Gear, a mecha wargame franchise that's almost 30 years old, with old RPG books, video game adaptation, and a 3D animated show that's somehow so loosely adapted it makes BattleTech the animation pulse laser accurate.
My home planet!
Mostly because of a financial issue sadly, and yes, I know what you want to ask. Yes, I'm doing fine reviewing two mechanically crunchy vehicle combat TTRPG with extensive rules twice in a month. I'm totally fine. Why are you asking? So what is Heavy Gear? Heavy Gear, set in the year of 6146 AD, currently at least, or 1954 TN, Terra Nova was once the pride of the Earth's colony. Now it's a world almost constantly in conflict over the rich resources of the planet, first between the North and South, then between Terra Novans and the invaders from Earth and its conquered allies. To overcome the harsh environment of Terra Nova where a conventional vehicle would get bogged down and an aircraft would get eaten alive by the atmosphere, the first gear was created 300 years ago and evolved through wars, bridging the link between infantry and tank. It's not an ultimate war machine. Tanks and attack helicopters would eat them alive in the open. What Heavy Gear really bring to the table is their maneuverability, compact size, low logistic trail, and the fact that all factions can make tens of thousands of these things easily and don't blink an eye when hundreds get destroyed in an assault. With thousands of men and women piloting these things, there's always a few that will shine above the rest. The question is, are you one of them? So the first thing you want is a lot of D6. The die system used by the book is called the Silhouette system, and it's a slightly more advanced form of D6 system you would find in a lot of TTRPG. Here's how it works. When rolling for something, the GM, or director, set the difficulty number that you need to roll past, and you generate a dice pool from base dice, skill, and maybe equipment. The difficulty number is also equal to the threshold number. When you roll, you take out your highest roll, and if there's other dice that goes over the threshold number too, +1 to your result each time you get one. Now just decrease the result by the difficulty and this is your margin of success, which determine how successful your roll is. Did you get all that? Good, because that's how everything works. This same system is also used in opposed roll by comparing the final result you and your opponent gets to see the margin of success and failure, and you will do this a lot especially when fighting, or just most other things really. For really difficult scenario, the diff can even go above 6, but the threshold won't go over 6 so you still have a chance to succeed. It's just that it's gonna be goddamn hard to roll. The threshold number could also be adjusted in certain situation, like having high ground, having the right equipment, or get better control system. It's interesting, even though it's frustrating to understand at first. At least it's more than just adding more dice to your pool. Anyway, let's talk about how to make your dice pool by making your character. First, here's the character sheet. Don't worry, it looks scary, but it's actually a lot less terrifying than it looks. There's multiple examples in the book. First thing you want to fill is your national origin, where your character is from, whether that's North, South, Peace River, New Coal, Badlanders, or the Invaders. Then life path, who your characters are, description is description, and contacts are people your character is related to that could aid you for a favor. These three boxes are your traits, your personality, which can be used to improve your roll once per session, do the reverse but also reset one of the traits so you can use it again, or do either. Pick 4. You can also optionally pick attributes, which are perk or flaw your characters could have. You must pick a flaw for each perk you have chosen, but this gives more characteristic to your characters than just your skill set, giving you benefits and drawbacks in certain situations. This box here is your archetype, your role in the team essentially, from the caretaker, commander, grunt, scout, pilot, and more. The last one is kinda weird because it implies if you want to pilot you should pick that, except almost every archetype is good in a gear anyway. It honestly should be called ace or maverick or something similar. Archetype gives you unique mechanic and abilities. It just makes you do better at a role. Down here is your skill set, in which you pick from over 20 different domains and write a skill that fits in that domain, which is a bit painful for people like me who prefer a less free-form way of doing so. Luckily, there's a page full of example. Also, depending on your director and the plot, your character gets different total skill points to spend too, with 17 being default. Heavy Gear 4E is really an old school TTRPG, even though it came out just a month ago. At character creation, you also can't have too many higher level skill over lower level ones, but you can break this rule when you level up your skill later in the campaign. And yes, there's no character level here, all you level is your skill. Individually, You do so by using your skill with challenge, intentionally reducing your dice pool, not through mechanically required penalty. The easiest way to do so is use your traits. Whether with failure or success, you earn 1 EXP on that skill. You are literally honing your skill by challenging yourself. This is per session per skill however, but it still means that all those level 1 skills you have might turn to a 2 very quickly. There's also a downtime action that lets you train your skill or even get a new one entirely, so you aren't lacking in options. There's also a thing called skill familiarity. Skill with familiarity gets a reliable dice, an extra dice that can be rolled to replace the lowest dice, and you can apply skill familiarity based on your life path, your national origin, and your archetype. Use whatever the hell you call this to mark skills with familiarity. You should put it on skills most relevant to your role. And because of how freeform the skill system is, let me write you this and save you a lot of time. You can thank me later. Funny enough, this system also means that creating adversary NPC against the players are easy as heck. You just give them 3 in their most relevant stat and 2 for secondary and 1 for tertiary skill, and there you go, NPC ready to get shot. A veteran would have 4, and an elite would have 5, which is also the maximum number, giving the players an easy frame of reference on how good they can get to. You were also supposed to write a 1-sentence motivation, but there's no space, and pick your starting equipment, and that's it. You are done. Now let's talk about the GRE. GRE, or Genetically Recombined Expeditionary Legionnaire, are vat-grown genetically engineered super soldier created by New Eurasian Commonwealth to do super soldier stuff on Earth, and then on Terra Nova. Each one is built for a class with specific role, from shooting to piloting to fixing things, and the Colonial Expeditionary Force or CEF, see them as completely expendable. And when they failed in their first invasion on Terra Nova, they left behind a lot of GRE on the planet, who, after a long period of time not receiving Earth's propaganda and hypnotic brainwashing, realized they are actual people, and you can play as them. They are also purple. Playing as GRE can be very interesting for just how different they are. They are super soldier, which means they are very good at war, but are unfortunately very terrible outside of it, and their skill set reflects it with barely any non-combat related skill, as well as having attributes that make them very good at fighting but god-awful outside of it. GRE also has another problem. They are mass-produced for a specific role, and it's very difficult for them to learn new things on the go. The only way to do so is via intermission, the downtime phase. This doesn't mean they are stupid. The GRE are simply learning the basics of society and communication that humans have been learning since they were born. There's also 2 kinds of GRE, in spec and out of spec. In spec is GRE still under CEF control, so just pick one of the skill set down below and make them a little more unique with 1 extra quirk. Out of spec is those outside of CEF control, usually those left on Terra Nova, letting you replace some of their skills into more practical things. Also, this is just me saying, but most out of spec GRE can probably start as veteran because you don't survive 30 years on Terra fucking Nova and don't learn something new. Can I also just mention that how goddamn 90s the name GRE is? It's an acronym for Genetically Recombined Expeditionary Legionnaire. Nobody alive today would name their super soldier like this today, and nobody would make them purple either. They probably gonna just make them look like a normal guy like this for stupid reasons like it's practical or infiltrator or whatever, and they probably gonna call them with single word names like sledge or something. Wait a moment. Anyway, let's talk about being in a team. In the amply named team section, you, the players, get to decide what kind of team you will be playing as in your campaign. This can include but not limited to guerrilla, arena team, diplomatic mission, with guns obviously, military squad, secret police, secret society, survivors, and of course, mercenaries, everyone's favorite. You could even play as a team of armed archaeologists.
That belongs in a museum!
All of them with suggestions on what missions to run and what kind of logistic this team might have, and I would even say that some of these suggestions can be easily used in other tabletop game too. They are pretty good ideas. Each team type can also expand and limit what kind of sponsor you can pick, which gives you different bonuses. Someone good at talking in your team might even be able to attract attentions from other sponsors to potentially obtain their vehicles. Picking a team type also set your priority level, which basically determines your access to equipment like weapons, armor, and equipments, as well as customizing them. The most helpful of these are the rigs, kits, and gadgets, which can increase your dice pool in usually non-combat skill roll and more, most of which are also 90s as shit. Fucking data glove, goddamn, we should throw these stupid iPhones away and just get these things. Also, priority level determines what gears and vehicles you could get, and sweet mecha Jesus Christ. There's so many gears specialized in so many roles: airborne deployable gears, commander variants with better comms suite, recon gears with better sensor and potentially warfare capability, submersible and amphibious assault capable gears, mountainous or urban terrain gears, gears made for user safety, gears made for long-ranged patrol, gears made for policing duty, which means they are even more of a dogshit somehow, gears specialized for melee, gears specialized for bombardment, gears specialized to be a goddamn monster, gears specialized to be stealthy, so many spec ops stealth gears, minesweeping gears, engineering gears, just a gear with towhook in case some idiot bogged down. Even the famous hunter has been converted and improved into so many variants, it can literally do anything, and the same goes for its southern counterpart, the Jaeger. And every faction has something they are good at. North and South are the normal faction, but where the North has more practical gears with ungodly amount of rockets, the South has more versatility in electronic and melee departments and more. Peace River like their gears to be tough as nail and further layer ECM defense over that. New Coal is just fast as hell and also has access to everything. And Black Talon is a special force faction with blank budget, so they have stealth every goddamn thing, also the main character of heavy gear too. Then there's Invader factions, CEF and its unlimited laser cannon, Caprice with its mounts that climb up everywhere, Utopia with its drone army, and Eden with its absolute insanity of meleeing with everything, including a VTOL. There isn't just gears either, there's heavy combat vehicles and striders, most are absolute murder to face in a gear, and a massive variety of transport and support vehicles to aid your players in battle, as well as pure civilian vehicles, just to let you know how things work outside of wars and battles. And best of all, do you see this corner? Any gears and other things with this box can be further modified depending on how much free space it has. As long as it fits, you can shove in anything, and make your own Chirico custom. Even the weapon can be switched out for other type or better version if you want to, as long as it fits. The most common modification is probably switching a light version of a weapon with a medium version for one more point of damage, which considering most gears have single-digit hull integrity, that's going to be very important. The only thing you can't do is switch out integrated vehicle equipment, though you can still upgrade sensors, but you can totally just strip out literally everything and get the available free space listed on the right. However, there's multiple catches. 1. You will quickly realize that a gear often has more stuff shoved in than you could put in yourself, and 2. The control system do not like this at all, so you will need to upgrade them back if you want to build your ace custom. It's almost like a gear is designed for a stock config or something. This is honestly a very well thought out mech customization system. It discourages players from just tearing everything out and making their insane custom variant, and instead encourages them to use whatever free space available to make whatever changes they want, and the stock loadouts of a gear are often quite adequate already, and some variants intentionally break the construction rules in way the players cannot. Also, the higher your PL gets as you prove your success to your sponsor, the better gears you could get. However, while what stuff you can get from your sponsor is limited by your PL, nobody said you couldn't try to get better stuff with other methods, like a bit of black market diving and totally legal salvaging. But, as a reminder, even the state of a vehicle you get from a sponsor depends on who they are. A vehicle can be in 3 states: standard, export, and salvaged. Standard is just standard. Export vehicles are the same as standard variant, except repairing and modifying the gear takes twice as long, and you get 2 less slots to customize. And salvaged rips out a lot of advanced electronic and systems because it's a barely functioning scrap, as well as reducing armor by 1, and also, most importantly, reduce necessary PL by 2, meaning it's easier for you to get them. This is a brilliant idea. Some sponsors have access to export gears from other factions, but it shouldn't be a surprise that those were made with lower quality, and salvaged gear probably won't function at 100% capacity too even after getting rebuilt, and when playing as Guerrilla and Nomad, these kind of salvaged gears are often the only thing you could get your hand on, which pushes players on these teams to acquire gears with crap load of firepower instead of having good electronic. Some gears also have the widespread trait, which means you can find them everywhere, and acquiring a more functional example would be far easier than getting other gears. It's really a nice mechanic to have, and also makes players think twice on just salvaging random gears off the battlefield. Capturing good gears intact is going to be a priority. Anyway, you got your character, you got your equipment and gears, let's talk about conflict. In combat, whether an actor is on foot or in a gear, they get 4 actions. Yes, you heard that right. However, it's not as simple as it sounds. Each action you declare, and you must declare all actions on activation. The rolls you make for those actions take 1d6 penalty per action declared, which mean if you spend all 4 of your actions shooting, you will be taking 4d6 penalty to those actions, and that's a lot. At early game, you probably don't want to spend all your actions on doing things unless you are in a very good position, and later on, with better gears and skills, you can start using more actions to deal with small fries, or less to deal with aces as good as you are, meaning, as you get better, you can Chirico the shit. There's another thing that can aid you, action point, which, I will repeat just once, action and action point are entirely different things. This is absolutely not confusing. With action point, you can spend it to negate 1d6 action penalty, or focus on a single action for better roll, or use it for reaction, usually reaction fire, which by the way, takes 0 action penalty, so you will shoot with full accuracy. The dice isn't just to improve your hit chance either, because this is the damage formula. That's right, your margin of success also add to the damage, and if your target fails their dodging roll real hard, even if you are a guy on foot with an oversized anti-gear rifle, you can mellow link this shit with enough margin. Your posture set upon activation could also improve or worsen your roll. You can choose to brace for a better shot, which is helpful when you are sniping, or go all out, doubling your gear movement rating and letting you dodge better. Both posture also have a next level above it. Other than just normally shooting people, indirect fire is also possible. Practically half of the weapons on the list can do that, including the humble rocket pod, or you can forward observe for your allies through your extended sensor, as their sensor cannot reach the enemy. ECM equipped gear could then block that as a reaction, or jam enemy's commander from relaying their order and make everyone on the other side more miserable. ECCM equipped gear can then counter this, redirecting enemies' jamming attempt to it to counter it head on, and of course, there's always the option of going up close and personal with melee weapons, which has the benefit of preventing the enemy from running off unless they roll well. For a TTRPG about mini-mek on rollerblades, it's probably not a surprise how reactive the combat is, how even simple attack and dodge needs rolling, as if both participants are actively in motion. Combined with the insane variety of gears and archetypes that can be mixed together, the players can easily form a team of pilots that can complement each other well in ways that isn't just more guns and more shooting, and that's really interesting to me. Also, once again, just write this down, you can thank me later. Another thing that's very interesting, damage isn't just damage. When you damage a person or gear or anything really, you aren't just reducing their health. You have to roll on these table, which is in the fucking director guide section for some godforsaken reason, and then roll on these table to inflict damage result onto the vehicle or crew, which can do bad things like catastrophic limb damage, knocked out, on fire, and hallucinations. Truth to be told, most of the time, it's not that bad. There's a 33% chance that you get hull breach when taking one vehicle damage, which does nothing unless you are underwater or in space. Some damage results also don't apply their dice value as action penalty, and even dissipate on its own or can be fixed easily. Any damage result that doesn't have asterisk can also be patched on field, which let you temporarily ignore their penalty until the end of a scene, and can also be fixed with the right tools and enough duct tapes and bandages. Anything with asterisk, however, you gonna need some specialized care and a trip to the garage. However, all those weak damage results can still add up, potentially snowball into a bad situation because you can't roll well due to the damage result, which means it just keeps getting worse. So better have your allies covering your back if you take hit. And while you might think that rolling for these damage result feels like a pain in the ass, let's be honest, you won't be rolling for them as many times as you thought. This is truly the Votom's experience. Joke aside, it's actually kinda hard to, well, get killed, unless you truly screwed up in a spectacular way. You would be surprised by how much your gear can take if your dodge roll can keep up. And, let's talk about the one thing I want to complain about combat here. There's two modes of play in combat: narrative, which deals with the full range scale on everything, but can be adjusted for theater of mind play too, though it does mean getting anywhere requires going all out or even top speed almost all the time, which sounds very Votom's. Then there's blitz mode, in which range are reduced for a more tactical gameplay. The MR of a gear becomes its movement in inches, or hexes as I preferred, and the range of a weapon get divided by 10. You basically turn the game into RPG version of the heavy gear blitz war game, and those are still a whole lot of hexes, so you gonna want a big map. Blitz mode also affects sensor range, which is a thing, and it gets very weird, because this is how it looks like. Somehow, 2 kilometers is 18 hexes, 4 kilometers is 18 hexes, and 5 kilometers is 24 hexes. This is because that's how sensor range works in heavy gear blitz, but that's just kinda weird. Also, much like many old school RPG, very important details are sometimes being sprinkled in minced pieces in random places, like how when your gears have empty space, your melee damage, movement rating, and narrative carry weight by hands get increased. Or how your gear can actually move 1.5 times faster if you use only the secondary motive system, how you actually need certifications to drive gears from specific factions, how you can wield a weapon with two hands to give you plus 1d6 dice, which is an extremely important tip at early campaign. Some are at least easy to find, some however requires a few days of obsessive reading, which was what I did. The layout of the book is just weird, and occasionally painful to read. I'm trying to like your book here, DreamPod 9, stop making me feel so goddamn frustrated. Still, honestly, this book is quite charming. The arts in there are a mix of old and new ones, and even though it doesn't tell you much, the depictions of the world of Terra Nova through the arts or texts are quite interesting from the few glimpses I have caught. There are also many player aids coming to solve the many problems I have mentioned. There's a whole community behind this book, so of course someone will be making quick reference guide and etc. soon. Also, if you manage to get me, an intense mech fan, to obsessively read what are essentially spreadsheets for almost a week straight and bring out a calculator the whole time, you are probably doing something right. And finally, even with all these problems, Heavy Gear 4e still managed to get what I really wanted all along, a highly tactical mech game with an extensive list of military equipments with crunchy rules to back it up. That also doesn't make me feel like I'm fucking dying when reading it. It still has more words than it needs to, but trust me when I say this still does not compare to the pain and suffering true old school simulationist TTRPG and war games gave me. Anyway, you can get it now on Drive-Thru RPG. I do not recommend you getting the hard copy for now though. Wait a bit until some of the issues are fixed, and if somehow having 200 plus units isn't enough, there's also extended content PDF on DreamPod 9 community website, an optional rarity rule to see whether your players could get a gear they wanted or not. I also recommend just getting Heavy Gear Blitz 3.1 edition, which its wargame rule is what Heavy Gear 4th edition RPG further built on. That's also currently free on Drive-Thru RPG, and there's also Tabletop Simulator mod to play it online. That's all for now, and I will see you all next time. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe and click that notification bell button. If you want to see the videos early as well as further support my channel, you can join in my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.